All right, guys. Final topic for the day. If you guys have a topic for us, go to the Kinda Funny forums at kindafunny.com/forums. There's a thread right at the top there for your Gamescast topics. There's a whole bunch of them. Shout out to Lindsay, who's one of the superstars on the forums.
Yeah.
She spells her name with an A. It's Lindsay.
Lindsay. Say what?
But she's fucking awesome, and she has been super great in the forums, making sure everything is beautiful and organized. And she organized this topic very nicely for me. Sean1Neo says, "Hi guys, can I ask your opinion on the lack of light gun shooters for consoles and what the future holds?"
Oh yeah, this guy talked to me on Twitter about this.
Yeah.
Here's another sub-genre we don't talk about.
Yeah, I mean, peripheral games are just largely dead.
And that's the problem. It's peripherals.
Yeah.
That's why we don't see them. People got burned out with Guitar Hero and all that. And I think, the PS1 era, light gun games were something special because that was the peripheral. Everyone wanted Time Crisis. Everyone wanted Point Blank and all that stuff. And
I even go further back than that, like the Genesis sharpshooter and SNES and
or
all
Duck
that
Hunt.
stuff. Yeah.
Well, SNES's was a failure, but obviously the Super Scope was no one gave a fuck about that thing. Everything was awesome because they used to play outside with it. But then it was a bazooka.
It looked like a real gun.
But some reason I had that. What?
The dog
he was just having. Look at him.
He's listening. He's intently listening to you.
But yeah, light guns were like in the Duck Hunt era. Light gun was a gimmick, right? It was a way to I'm playing. I still don't.
This isn't a video game. It's a toy.
Yeah.
It's an entertainment system. It does so much more than
The
games.
PS1 era, I think light guns and Dreamcast, I think had awesome light gun games too, like House of the Dead and all those because. These disc-based games were more graphically robust. They were pretty. You were playing like House of the Dead 2. I remember specifically that was like a 1-for-1 experience really from the arcade to Dreamcast.
And I think that's the thing is even from and Dreamcast probably is the perfect example of when it could finally be arcade perfect. Like Dreamcast is the most arcade perfect system ever.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have the same exact chipset or whatever.
Probably. I don't know. I don't
forgot what it was
presume to know
called,
enough about the
Neptune
Dreamcast.
or some shit like that. But
oh yeah, that was the code name for it, wasn't it? The Dreamcast.
Yeah, and I think that was. I think that there was
Saturn and then Neptune.
There was a the board that they used for the arcades was Neptune. They also that's why a lot of games were ported over. I could be completely wrong about that, but I learned that somewhere. But yeah, there was the arcade. It's in the '90s, like the boom there, like it was all peripheral based. It was all I'm standing on a skateboard, I'm shooting a light gun, I'm punching some shit, and it's like when you got to take that experience home, and it's like I don't need to pay a quarter, but I can fucking play it. Come over and play Time Crisis. My God, that's such a important memory for a lot of people, and I just think it doesn't have the same. Those games don't have as much depth as a lot of things.
Exactly,
so
that's the big thing. And it's just like any other peripheral we talk about. Why I think Morpheus isn't going to succeed. There won't be enough experiences to justify the purchase.
Yeah.
Now you had a shot at it when Wii and PlayStation Move were happening because then you had the light guns there. I remember I played all the way through House of the Dead Overkill. Loved it. Had a great time. It was a funny story. It was fun. I was playing with the Move, getting trophies. It was like, yeah, this is great. All right, cool. But like now that the moves are mothballed away or sold back or where the hell my moves are, like if you put out I don't want to be down to do that. You know what I mean? Now, granted, again, there's the argument of it's built into the controller, but then we're just getting away from what a light gun is anyway. You know what I mean?
I mean that's actually really interesting. I remember when the Wii first came out. The question was, "There's a new Duck Hunt. Where's it coming?" And then it never came.
Yeah,
that is
weird.
We kind of got it as like a tech demo in a couple different ways. Like We Play had it, and like we got Link's crossbow training.
Right.
And
I
stuff.
bought Link's crossbow training. That fucking gun that it came with.
Yeah. But it's like we never
thinking?
got Duck Hunt, and that was such a weird thing. It's like that was such a perfect
no-brainer, right?
Yeah, and they just didn't do it. But
That's true. That's a good. I never thought of that.
I don't think we're gonna get a resurgence of light guns ever. But I mean, if there's new Time Crisis that come out, it would pique my interest, but I wouldn't buy it. So
you know what you will get for Duck Hunt though?
Huh?
Mobile game.
tapping on them ducks.
Taparoo.
Taparoo.
I like that. All right. At L3MIEUX. Lemix? Lemmy? I don't know.
Let me.
What is it? Let me see it. Oh, it's Lemieux.
Lemieux. You can't play any more games unless you spend a year in prison. Yes or no? I say lock me up. That's what he
Why is that the
Oh.
choice, though? Like, what happened?
I don't know.
There's got to be a story. The authorities just going to come, like, sir, you're done.
Yeah.
You either sit in prison for a whole year or you're never playing a video game again. I need
They
more
ban
information.
video games. I guess that's what they do.
Yeah,
Maybe
Once you do prison?
Maybe it springs from that guy who tried to get an NES in his prison. They wouldn't let him.
Oh, yeah.
What
Oh,
was
yeah,
it?
the
Who was it?
hacker?
Yeah. How was it?
I don't know. I need more information.
I wouldn't do it. I mean, what kind of? I guess. Okay, here's where the more information comes in. I want to know what kind of. Is it a federal pound me in the ass prison or what's going on?
Yeah. White collar?
Yeah.
White collar
Yeah. Is it like
penitentiary?
I just walk around and do whatever I want? I don't want to do it. I don't want to go to prison.
Yeah, no, just games are done for you.
For a year? Or was it for the year?
For a year.
Games are done forever or just for 1 year?
Games are done forever.
Unless I'm in prison.
Yeah.
What about when I get out of prison? They're still done?
No, they're back.
Yeah.
So it's a 1 year moratorium on games no matter what.
No. That's not the way I read it. The question is, you are not allowed to play games anymore unless you
So
go
it's
to
just
prison
me.
for 1 year.
Just me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe all of us.
Then no, if that's the stipulation, then I'll just take a year off of gaming, and it'll be really hard, and I'll hate it. But I'll have comics and movies. And
That's
But
not
you
what
would
he's
go-
saying.
that-
You can
yeah.
never play games again. I don't understand why you don't get this question. I'm confused on why you're having such a hard time grasping
so now,
this.
if I go to jail for a year, I get to play games in jail.
I don't know if that's how.
Jesus Christ! Are you kidding me? He's saying you can't play. Give me the phone.
Can you use it in a
You
sentence?
can't play any more games unless you spend a year in prison. You can't play any more games unless you spend a year.
Are you playing games?
Holy shit! Time's taking its toll on you, Greg.
Now it's a real question. Now it's a real thought.
Now you get it.
Now I got to think about it.
I don't know if I could, man.
You're like, no. After a year, I'll just play games. I was like, what are you talking about? That's not the question. You can never play them unless you spend a year in prison.
I guess I'll do it then. Yeah, I'll take the year in prison.
You go to prison?
Yeah.
Fuck, man. I don't know if I could last.
'Cause I can
don't-
play
I don't
all the
think
games I want in prison.
Okay, we're moving on from this. I'm saying no. At Jeff Stott wants to know if you could replace one game's soundtrack with another, what would it be and why?
One game soundtrack with another.
That's an interesting question. I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind would be the later Metal Gears.
Oh, fuck.
With
That's
Metal
a
Gear
really
2.
good one. That's a
Just
really
because
good
I want the Metal Gear 2 theme song. Yeah.
That question's too hard. I don't have an answer for it.
The other thing would be, I feel like a lot of this isn't answering your question, but it's the idea. I feel like I would rather a lot of the Final Fantasy games to have the orchestrated versions of their music kind of put in them. Like Final Fantasy 7, that whole era, the PlayStation era Final Fantasy games, like they don't sound good at all. Because
No.
it's not, they're like, it's weird,
all compressed.
compressed sample based shit. It's like Final Fantasy 6 and below, classic chip tune that sounds great. Then later they get all orchestrated, but it's like, or even through 10, man, 10 sounds fucking bad. And it's like, if we could just replace it with the new orchestrated versions, that'd be fucking dope.
The good news is the soundtrack of 10 is the least of its problems. High five.
I hate you so much. Do you have an answer?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's kind of like a fucking.
That's really.
I would say probably none.
That's a detailed one, and it's hard to think. I can't think of a game I've played where I'm like, this soundtrack sucks.
but it would fit.
But I really wish Uncharted
I
was
wish-
laid over it. You know what I mean? Like, no.
Yeah.
Games, I kind of have a trouble separating those experiences. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
The only one I've ever successfully separated and remapped was when I played Super Mario World on SNES, and I had Pinkerton played nonstop.
There you go.
Every time
You would replace-
I'd come home. But that doesn't count because that's not a game soundtrack. And the soundtrack to Super Mario World's awesome.
Yeah.
I had already played it for like an entire summer at Matt Noel's basement, so I didn't
So you
need.
knew.
I knew the real music.
At Chiruit22 says, what do
Chiru-
you guys like to read? And are there decent game-based novels or vice versa? So I'm going to ask a different question based on this.
Okay.
Would you guys read video game-based novels?
If they were decent,
Yeah. Some games have huge, robust, like Mass Effect. I think has a pretty
Halo
robust.
does. Halo has
yeah.
like its own like guy
Alfredo
managing the universe.
was
yeah.
like so into the Halo books.
Yeah.
Before there's like a million of them. Back
Yeah,
when
yeah,
there was
yeah.
just a handful that were canon and stuff. He fucking loved it.
But I mean, like, I have to say no, I wouldn't, because like Uncharted. I remember we got proofs of the Uncharted book, and I didn't even bother reading it. I was just like, no, I don't. It's not. It's not how I want this experience.
Yeah, typically, I'm trying to think. Like, I read the Homefront book. That
Uh-huh.
was the
Of course
prequel
you
to
did.
Homefront because I was really into that, and it was interesting. The video game book that just sticks in my mind most is Empire, which is the book that Orson Scott Card wrote. For Shadow Complex. That is kind of the lead into, like, Shadow Complex has no real context, so the book is kind of the context for Shadow Complex. I know it was interesting, but generally, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the games should tell you their stories themselves. I think there's some games that would be interesting books, like BioShock. I think would be a great book, for sure. But not necessarily. I'm not necessarily seeking this shit out. You know? Yeah.
I read the novelization of Resident Evil 1. I don't know why I did that. It
I'll
was
give a shout
really
out
weird.
here. I'll give a shout out here to, and you're gonna laugh, but stick with me, the Injustice comic book, because that was better than the story of the game, and that went on way longer. It was really a really interesting Superman story, but that wasn't based on the video. It wasn't. I didn't like that because of the video game. I liked it because of the characters and the world that didn't spawn
I guess that's
from
true.
the video game. Didn't start the universe and the characters. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that doesn't really count. But
There was a super dope Choose Your Own Adventure Luigi book I read when I was young, and I liked that. Like I read many times. Seeing the
Luigi
different
walks
paths.
to his closet. If he picks a green hat, go to page 2.
Yeah.
If he
Choose
picks
Your
a
Own
red,
Adventure was the worst.
if he picks a red hat, shut the book.
I used to just like cheat and just read
Just read through all the different options.
or you get the option to be like, you're dead. And I'd be like, oh, fuck. And then I just go back and just take the other options. Like, am I supposed to stop here? This thing reminded me that
that's the end.
that Destiny could use a lot of fleshing out in books.
Yeah.
Yes. The Audio Jedi asks, can a game show too much before it's released?
Yes.
Kind of like movie trailers giving away too much.
Yeah,
Entirely.
It happens all the
yeah,
time.
I think it's with both movies and games. It's happening more and more.
Yeah. And I think especially for us, when we get to play games before and see them before they're finished,
Yeah.
it's like it's hard to actually get a good experience with games now because it's just like you do know too much. And not even just seeing, even just reading. I feel like even back in the day, you could overread about a game
Oh, sure.
and just know too much about it.
It and there's such a thing too as on the flip side of doing demos that are too big or too much, like Dusky or whatever, Dusky
Yeah,
or whatever.
Final Fantasy
Like
15.
it's like I read somewhere that's getting a patch.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Make the game. You know, like what? Like it's done. You released the demo. It's over. Stop wasting your time on these things. You know.
Yeah.
Good lord, that game's never gonna come out.
Randomer wants to know, why aren't there more 4-player co-op games?
I think there are a lot
There's
of
a lot
forums.
Yeah, I feel like
yeah,
now
yeah.
there's a lot of like indie ones and stuff. Co-op,
Oh,
yeah,
co-op
no.
maybe not.
Yeah, they're usually a little more competitive, like Tower Fall and stuff like that. But there was a fair amount of co-op
Diablo.
ones. There's like all the like the Rayman games and the
Left 4 Dead,
new
Diablo.
Super Mario Bros. Left 4 Dead. Yeah.
Call of Duty Extraction.
Yeah, there's a fair amount.
Yeah, but more probably because the market doesn't need them or want them.
Sammy J93.
Sammy J.
Were you guys ever scared that games would turn into just your job rather than stay as something you enjoy to do as a hobby? Or have you ever witnessed this happen to someone as they just got sick of games altogether?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the verge. I've been in that situation a few times where I wouldn't play games for a few months because I just couldn't do it anymore. So yeah, it's a fear. I found a better balance.
Yeah.
And
That's the thing is,
yeah.
being able to change an audible, right? Like I've never been afraid of it because I knew I would nip it in the bud. But it's like the same thing. If like it burned me out on the job front, then I would try to find a new job. I wouldn't stop playing games or whatever, you know what I mean? Nor would I stick around and resent games.
Yeah, something that's always been interesting to me is I've always, I think, been more into reading about games, knowing about games than actually playing them. And that's weird as shit, but it's just like, it's just how I am. Like, I
Yeah.
like game culture and I like talking about it and I like, everything that goes into it.
Sure.
So for me, it's like, it does get a little scary though when I'm like, I'm too entrenched in that instead of the actual playing the games. But then there's moments like me playing Shovel Knight where I'm like, this is why I like video games
Yeah,
and this is
yeah.
why I always will like video games. And this is why I'm a gamer. It's like, no one can take that away from me, no matter what.
No one's gonna take it away from you.
Yeah.
Can't take that away.
This is the last question for the day. Will Schuster wants to know, do you think games will reach the point where graphically they will be completely indistinguishable from real life? If yes, will that be a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the
time.
future of VR. So it's a matter of, is it a good thing? I think it could be a good thing. I mean, we saw when remember VHS games and
Yeah.
like Night Trap and all that shit.
Yeah.
Like those were just real game. Those were just real footage that you then played the game over. And a lot of we were talking about Lightgun games. Like a lot of early Lightgun games were like
Mad Dog and all
yeah,
that
like all
crap.
that
Area
weird shit.
51.
And that shit sucked. But they tried. I mean, they've been trying to do this for 25 years. I think, yeah, eventually, absolutely, it'll be seamless. Whether or not that's a good thing or not, I don't know. I always think there's going to be there needs to be a. We were talking about it with The Last of Us, I think, some time ago. Like the game looks very realistic, but there's something not realistic about it.
Well, yeah,
and
having
I think
said
that's something.
I don't think that there ever will happen. Like, I don't think we'll ever see a game that if you watch it, you're going to be like, is this real life? Because if you look at a still, I think we've already hit that point where there's certain, you can look at a screenshot of a game and be like, wait, is that real or not? The second it's in motion, you know it's not real. And I don't think we'll ever break that. Like, I'd be really surprised because I don't even think we broke that with like CG movies and stuff. Like, there'll be little bits and pieces, but there's always something that happens that you're like, okay, like I know that this isn't real.
Oh, I totally disagree. I think it'll happen. I think that as processing power exponentially increases in these computers and stuff like that, it's going to require developers that are able to do this. But think about mocap. Like mocap is happening and making realistic animations for games like I think The Last of Us. Yeah, there's something not real about it, but the animation is not the problem with that game to make it not real. I think that there's an inherent. It's the same thing with Uncharted. There's an intentional thing that makes it not look real. Like it's not that they're trying to make it look as realistic as possible. They go all the way and then they step it back, and put like that something to it. I talked about this with you a long time ago. I remember we talked about this. Maybe it was on Beyond, where someone brought up that point where it's like they go, and then they walk it back a little bit because it's like there's still something.
They're still animating. They're still doing something. It's the same reason that they animate the actors' mouths, right? It's not like Infamous's tech, which is like, they had the balls. They paid attention to everything. They filmed the face. They filmed Nolan, Troy, Ashley, whoever, and then an animator goes there and makes everything. But then they have more range of movement in the face to do whatever they want with that. Ellie or Joel or Drake or whoever.
Because remember that there's Unreal 5 pictures, right? We did this on Colin and Greg Live. I think it's Unreal 5 or whatever the new Unreal Engine is, where people rendered like apartments that look
right.
indistinguishable from fake things. Like they are totally indistinguishable. Like you could show that picture to someone and be like, "This is my apartment," and they'd be like, "Oh, it's beautiful."
Yeah.
So like if they can do that with environments, obviously doing that with a person is going to be harder.
But that's my thing though. Is you can show them a picture, but if you showed them that video. Like I remember the video you're talking about. It was mind blowing, but the video is not real though. It's not so much the animation as much as it's the sheen things have, and I don't think that you can get rid of that. Like,
you will though. That's the whole thing. Is like I'm with you right now for where we are right now. In the next 5 years, it's not going to happen, right? But I think beyond that, moving forward, it's totally going to happen because they'll solve those problems. You know what I mean?
I don't
like
know.
the day they
I'll
figure out
be
how
really
to fucking
interested.
animate a pillow. And covers. That's the one, right? And that was like one of the things I ever pulled away from whatever GDC talk I was at, right? Is that if you'll notice, watch people get into bed. They never cover themselves with a blanket, and the pillow never reacts because those are the hardest things to animate. They just can't make it look real, so they don't do it.
Yeah, but see, I think you guys are even taking this even further than I am with the animation and stuff because that's a whole other layer. That will they nail that? Yeah, probably. Like that.
So you're just talking
that
about
makes sense.
in-game.
I'm talking about the look of it, like because even take video games out of it, just CG in general, like in movies, like.
Yeah.
They still haven't figured it out. Like it's still,
but it's close all the time.
It's close, but it's like it is close. But I don't think there's ever been an example of it being that close, where you're like, oh, we're gonna get there, where it is indistinguishable. Maybe for the seconds, maybe for whatever, but it's like as an overall experience, I don't think we're ever gonna get a video game that you can't tell the difference. And it has to do with so much different things. The animation, in addition to the look and the sheen and the colors and reflections and light and all that stuff, in addition to what's in focus. Like we were talking about this on Game of Grey show today. It's like, if I'm looking at you right now, how do you replicate what's going on to my sides?
Right.
I don't think they'll ever figure that out. And especially when you're playing a game, replicating that isn't a video game then. Then it's a weird simulator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like video games need a little bit more. So I don't know. We'll see. But I doubt it.
In 50 years from now, you and I will be in the nursing home together.
Yeah.
Your girlfriend will be dead.
Yeah.
My girlfriend will be dead. We'll be chilling there, and I'm going to poke you in the ribs and show you something.
And I'm going to show you the new shirt.
Good.
Tim was right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the last ever episode 22 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Leave your comments over in the forums at kindoffunny.com/forums. Go sign up. There's a thriving community there. It's really fun. Probably the best community on the internet, I will say. They are so positive, and it's the best. I really like them.
Yeah,
I like
I
you
do too.
guys. I like you guys a lot. Thank you so much, Colin. Thank you
welcome.
so much, Greg. Thank you, Kevin. Being
Early-
here on your birthday, wearing your little skinny shirt. I'm happy about this. Kevin lost a lot of weight.
At the very beginning of the show, I took a photo, and me and Brad had to go. What it was that Kevin one of his buttons had come undone, so I had just fucking right on to the belly button. I needed to capture that moment, so that's what I did there. No, I don't
Good
need to see it
Lord.
again. I have it. It's okay.
God, we were talking about black holes earlier. Good Lord.
Looks like Gargantua.
There you go.